The headline medical stories that affect you and your family. This is What's Happening in Health.
Morning, everybody, and welcome to What's Happening in Health. We are so glad to be sharing part of your Sunday morning. We now have a full 90 minutes of hope and healing. And we want to continue to share stories this week for Donate Life Month. Today we meet a young woman who is in need of a living donor for a kidney transplant. Her name is Maria Valentina Almeida, and she is joined by Andy Johnson today of Network for Hope. So glad to have you both here. We're going to share a little bit more about how we can all make a difference in her journey. And we are just weeks away from Aubrey's Golf Open. It is the 25th year for this event. It supports an organization that raises money for sick children. So joining us this half hour, we want to welcome the Aubrey Rose Foundation, Nancy Hollenkamp, the co-founder and executive director, and Linda DiTullio is here. She is a champion for the Aubrey Rose Foundation. So glad to have you both in-house. But first, a quick headline for you from the Butler County Veterans Service Commission. They are offering free items like this, coasters, gun locks. Their goal is to help with suicide prevention. Last week on our What's Happening in Health show, Mike Farmer, the executive director, told us this.
Last year in 2024, we saw a total of 7 veterans die by suicide in Butler County. Through the first 8 weeks of this year, 2025, we've already seen 7 veterans die by suicide.
The county now has a crisis line for suicide prevention. They're asking all of us to share this number if needed, 1-844-427-4747. It is staffed 24 hours a day. On to our top story this week. It is in Donor of the Week, and we honor a gentleman named Rich Rodier. He is a regular blood donor. He helped us this week learn more about stroke risk and blood type. You see, when you give blood, you learn your blood type, maybe type A, type B, type O, or even a combination of these types.
And make no mistake about it, at your local blood donation site, such as this Ohio Hawksworth Center, all types are welcome. Those such as Rich Rodier, who donate here, say they do it
just for that reason, just to try to help people.
In the U.S., about 1 in 4 of us have type O positive blood, followed by A positive, O negative, and A negative. So when a recent study in neurology found that those who had type A blood had a 16% higher risk of having an early stroke,
there's a lot of people that got real concerned about this article, thinking if they have blood type A, they have to be more concerned about stroke.
But blood specialist Dr. Carolyn Ahlquist says there's a few things to know before you panic if you have type A blood, and here's why.
And what's important to recognize is they didn't find any mechanism by which having blood type A would cause you to have a stroke. So correlation does not imply causation.
What can contribute to stroke risk, she says, is how you eat, how often you get regular exercise, and whether or not you have high blood pressure, just to name a few. Since you can't change your blood type, she says, not by giving blood or any other means.
If you have the time, do it. It's easy.
You're better off focusing on these health habits and worrying about what you can change.
Now, Hawksworth would love to have you donate blood and learn more about your type. And if you do donate this month, you'll get a thank you of this Reds hat. They're also hosting their annual Pitching for Platelets, as it's called. It's quite the experience for donors. It means you'll be registered for a chance to win a VIP experience at Great American Ballpark. And every donation does make a difference. You can set up an appointment by calling 513-451-0910 or click in the digital version of this story to make an appointment at any neighborhood donation center at what'shappeninginhealth.com. All right, just ahead, not in a good mood, take a walk. We share what specialists say is good for body and soul. And we welcome Maria and Andy. They're going to share more on living organ donation, this Donate Life Month, as we call it. Stay with us for Waiting for Life on What's Happening in Health.
This portion of What's Happening in Health is sponsored by Metro and Gastro Health.
In Healthy on the Go, as we call it, if you're feeling the blues this spring season, you might want to try walking to get you in a better mood. It's one way to get around. A recent study from the JAMA Network Open says people who take more than 5,000 steps a day noticed improvements in mental health.
Exercise has been linked to, different neurotransmitters in the brain that bring a sense of enjoyment. Also physiologically, it can change our body. So there's a lot of benefit to exercise that actually has a direct benefit on our mental health.
And if you're having a hard time finding motivation to move around because of the depression or anxiety, researchers also suggest ask a friend or a family member to accompany you. Makes you accountable. It's also important to talk to a mental health provider if you do not feel like this helps your mood. All right, on now to our wonderful team here from Network for Hope. We welcome Andy back and Maria. Hello to you.
Hello.
Andy, what is Network for Hope?
Network for Hope is really the organization that is dedicated to saving and changing lives through organ, tissue, and eye donation. So we facilitate the recovery of organs and tissue for transplant, but we also, it's about getting the word out and talking about the importance of registering to be a donor, how it impacts the community, how it impacts families, and how it impacts people like this young lady, Maria.
It is Donate Life Month, so we are asking for people to share their stories. So let's hear a little bit of yours.
Yes, hi Liz, thank you so much for having me. So my name is Maria Valentina Almeida. I am 22 years old and I am in need of a kidney transplant.
So tell me about that. Have you had chronic kidney conditions or what led to that?
Yes, so I was actually born with a sepsis at birth, a general sepsis at birth, and a malformation that led to a lot of complications with my kidneys growing up. And then when I was 9 years old, I came to the United States in search for better health care at Cincinnati Children's. And thankfully I got it, and the team was amazing with me and helped me get all the care that I needed. But unfortunately, my right kidney suffered a lot of problems from that sepsis that I was born with and all that complication, so they had to take that out. And so now I've been living with my left kidney for the past 13-ish years, and it's slowly losing its function.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, it shows you that you only need one, so we get a pair and we got one to spare.
Yeah.
And we have a few photos of your life. You're still pretty active. You just finished school.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about you.
I did, yeah. I am so grateful that I was able to go to Miami University. I studied journalism and public health. And I graduated back this December with both of my majors. And yeah, I was just so grateful to be able to complete my degree and complete my education. It was a goal of mine that I was so grateful to be able to achieve. However, I decided to take that step of graduating a semester early because back in March of 2024, I started feeling the complications of my health kind of start coming along. So I made the decision officially to graduate early just so that I could fully take charge of my health this spring term. And I'm so glad I did, because here I am just, putting myself first and doing everything that I can to find my kidney and get my second chance at life. So.
Boy, we sure hope we can work with you on that. Are you on dialysis?
I am not, thankfully.
All right.
Yeah, I'm at
Yay.
16% function and I'm not on dialysis.
Wow.
There's back in February of this year, it was really tough. I did have a slow, I went slowly to 16% and then back to 18 at the end of February. And my doctor did start mentioning dialysis. They started talking about it. But with medication and just like follow-ups and lab work every now and then, and dietary changes, that's also really important. I've been able to manage all my symptoms a little bit better. And yeah.
We should mention that the percentage your kidneys are working, and so out of 100%, yours are down to
16.
just about where they have to go.
Yes.
We do have a little dialysis video that filters the blood, and a lot of people know that that's one way while you're waiting for a donor. But Andy, how do you become a living kidney donor? What is it that we need?
So we have 3 transplant centers here. Maria is listed at Children's UC.
Yes.
So people can call the transplant center at UC and ask to be tested on Maria's behalf. And then from there you take a short questionnaire that's emailed to you, and then you're determined if you can move forward in the process. It's actually a very simple process.
So we obviously want you here because we want people to be screened, and
Yes.
it's kind of terrifying because people think if they register to become an organ donor, there's all kinds of myths with that. They won't
Yes.
save my life. They won't take good care of me. They'll be. What do we need to know about those myths?
That they're myths,
Yeah.
and that they're absolutely not true. And when we're talking about deceased donation, and that's when you register on your license to be a donor, that means upon your passing, you could donate. Doctors will do everything they can to save your life. They have a duty of care to do so. No one is, that is not the country that we live in, and we have a very high ethical medical standard here. So I would just encourage people to understand what organ donation is, and break through the myths that prevent people from making that decision. Also learn about living donation, because we have this list of over 100,000 people waiting. 90,000 are waiting for kidney transplants. There are so many people here who can step up for Maria, and go through that process to get tested. She is at the beginning of her life, and there's so much life for her to live. And so we're just glad that we could be here to advocate for her and all of the people that are in need.
Yeah, so true. All right, so a couple things. I want to give you the last word. How would it change your life to have
Oh my goodness, that's the great question. I have a lot of goals in life. I definitely see myself giving hope to others through my testimony. That's kind of what's always been on my mind, just using my experience to just be a word of encouragement, give a word of encouragement to those who are struggling through the same thing or worse things in life. And I want to be able to live through all the experiences, be there for my family. I have a twin sister who's getting married soon and hopefully having a family. I want to be there for her. That's a big dream of mine. Be there for my parents as they grow old. You know, there's a lot of things about life that is worth living. So I want to experience
So nice
that.
to hear a person say, I just want to pay it forward.
Yes,
basically what you just said
that's
and all
what
that.
she's
God
saying.
bless you.
Yeah.
All right, well, we will put links to the team at UC that will allow us to screen as a simple cheek swab. You can go to Networks for Hope's web center. We have a link to them as well, and they'll talk you through the process or show you the process of becoming an organ donor, living or deceased. And be sure to tell your family your wishes so they know
Absolutely.
should you encounter a situation where they need to be informed.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thanks for being
Thank you
bold
so
in your
much.
faith and what you do and your light and your spirit. And Andy, we love you.
Thank you. Love you too.
Just know,
Thank
you're
you,
close to
Liz.
our
Thank
hearts.
you.
All right, just ahead, a word of caution about teens and screen time in high-tech health. And we're going to talk about the Aubrey Rose Foundation with Nancy and Linda. They are here to tell us a little bit more about how they care for sick children. Stay with us.
This portion of What's Happening in Health is sponsored by Northern Kentucky Area Development District.
Welcome back in High Tech Health today. Excessive screen time by teen girls leading to sleep deprivation and depression. Study in Sweden found when students ages 12 to 16 get more screen time, their duration and quality of sleep suffers. Both boys and girls had disrupted sleep, but girls in a particular way saw greater problems with depression linked to phone and tablet use. In Wait No More today, an estimated 2 million people will be diagnosed with cancer this year in the U.S. alone. Many of those said to be obesity-related cancers. New research just released suggests 4 things can help lower that risk if you have an obesity-related diagnosis. The author says avoiding obesity, staying physically active, eating a healthy diet, and limiting alcohol can all improve the odds of survival.
Even if you are not perfectly following these guidelines, the more you adhere to them, the better your odds of surviving your cancer diagnosis are.
Survivors of non-smoking obesity-related cancers studied in the U.S. who mostly adhered to these healthy lifestyle choices after a diagnosis also had a 24% overall lower risk of dying compared to those who did not make those healthy choices. All right, on now to our wonderful team from the Aubrey Rose Foundation. We are fans of this organization. They're one of the first groups I ever met when I was working here in radio, and I got to go on the Heart Walk with the Aubrey Rose Foundation.
Yes.
So tell us, what is the Aubrey Rose Foundation?
So we help children with life-threatening medical conditions, and we started the foundation because of Aubrey. She was our baby. She had a heart and double lung transplant at 18 months of age, and that was her 5th open heart. And so we know what it's like experiencing being out of town for different surgeries and everything. And so when she died very suddenly, we just felt so strongly we had to give back and help out others.
And we have a few photos of Aubrey Rose. She's a little heart stealer, let me tell you. And so part of what you try to do is let others know you've been through this experience. Right. But you pay for those how? Like,
so we help families
expenses?
with their medical necessary expenses. And so sometimes through no fault of the parents, they can go bankrupt because of medical bills. And so sometimes they need just a little bit of help, and that's what we do, is we try to help them financially, spiritually, emotionally. Not that we all been through the same different diseases or whatever, but having a sick child, we can communicate with each other and kind of bond with each other. And sometimes these families really need somebody to talk to, and they need a little bit of help.
Yeah, I think, you feel alone when it's your child. And
right.
I'm sorry that you've been through that, but that's a gracious way to give back.
Yeah, it's very healing to be able to do this, and I know that Aubrey's life is still continuing on. God gave her a mission in life, and her job was done, and ours just began.
So, for sure.
Yeah.
And you brought friends.
I do.
Hello.
This is my friend Linda.
Hi, Linda. Tell us who you are and what you do.
So my name's Linda DiTullio. I'm just a good friend of Nancy's, and we are friends from Pure Bar Exercise. And Nancy shared with me one day her journey, her family's journey, and all they had been through with Aubrey Rose, and what they are doing now to help families, to help children. Not only that, they also have scholarships for young people to help them give back to the community, do service. And I just felt like this was something I wanted to get more involved in after hearing their story, their journey to champion for the Aubrey Rose Foundation.
Well, you are quite the champion, my friend.
She
Well
is.
said. And I know that you do this to these families at no charge because you have events throughout the year. So we have a golf tournament coming up. Who's the best person to ask about the golf tournament?
Linda.
All right, Linda.
She holds her team. I mean, she carries the team.
So tell us about it. We have a few photos, but tell us just kind of what it is, where you have it, that kind of thing.
So it's at Aston Oaks, correct? What's the date?
It's May 19th.
May
It's
19th
actually
coming
Aubrey's
up.
transplant
Reach
date
out.
anniversary.
Yeah, so there's, it's a really good opportunity to get involved with Aubrey Rose to help them give back to other families. There's still openings for foursomes. And I encourage women to come and join us.
So are you saying we don't have to be pro golfers?
No, it's actually like a reunion every year of people that come out and want to support Aubrey Rose. We want to recruit new individuals, lots of young people that like golf to get involved with Aubrey Rose Foundation, and it's just a really good time. And I think people don't understand what you can reap from doing things for other people. And this is an easy way to come out for the day and help give back to the Aubrey Rose Foundation so they can help other families and scholars.
Yeah, there is a lot of evidence that it helps your physical and emotional health when you give back. There's something about that, so if you like golf and you can play for a good cause, why not?
Yeah, even if you can't golf, just come out.
And I think you have a big party by the end of the day and a few things like
there's
that.
There's a big dinner at the end. We have a silent auction, and yes, it's just a fun, not a stuffy affair at all, just a fun affair.
So as you raise this money then, families reach out to you. What kind of families have you helped? Tell me just a little bit about that mission.
So we help any kind of family with a life-threatening medical condition with their child. And so that sets us aside because we're not just dealing with heart problems, or we're not just dealing with cancer. We help any family. And so we've brought service dogs for a child who's in a wheelchair who needs a service dog to get around. We've helped with getting car conversions, help with medical bills, therapy bills, a whole range of different things, bought gloves for kids that they need special gloves or whatever, just anything to help a family relieve some of that financial burden on them.
You know, and the things you just listed would not be like whoever thinks you're going to need to convert a car or
Right.
you're going to need to
Right.
have a pair of gloves,
Yeah.
but where else would you turn?
Right.
You know, those
Yeah.
are not things your medical insurance is ever going to cover if you even
Correct.
have it. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. So I'm curious, as you've seen their mission, just tell me how it's blessed you.
Well, personally, I have a handicapped granddaughter that's 28. So when Nancy was telling me her story, I was just really moved in that how also Aubrey lives on through all that they've done. And I think this is the 25th year.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Really?
That's their 25th
And
anniversary.
in my family, I have 4 sons, and service is a really big part of our family. And we're very involved with our granddaughter. And I think it's important that people try to recruit them to try to understand what this can also do for you as an individual. It is. I'm drawing a blank. I'm
It's
sorry.
okay.
That's all
It's
right.
just very
Yeah.
moving. And,
You know, thank you for sharing about your own personal experience, because I think one of the things when you have anyone with a medical condition, a disability, you feel that aloneness. And what you mentioned is, you know, this is a golf tournament where people are coming together to tell you that message. You are not alone in this journey.
That's a great point.
That's
a
super
great
important.
point.
All right, let's put up the payoff here. Monday, May 19th. You said, oh, it's a Monday too. That's a great day to take off for work. Monday, May 19th at the Aston Oaks Golf Course. We will put a link to all of this information at what'shappeninginhealth.com. We'll be putting the word out. We appreciate all you do. You are a unique organization, and we just know that you bring something to our community that otherwise wouldn't be here.
Thank you.
So thanks. And you're an awesome champion. You really are. Like, it's nice to hear you. All right, just ahead, how walking can benefit cardiovascular health. We talked to you about it earlier in mental health, but we've got some new research to share in healthy diversity. Stay with us. Want to leave you with a couple headlines this half hour. We start with Ask a Nurse, which is actually Ask a Social Worker today. If you are looking for resources to help your child navigate through college, there is a Parent Academy now at Mount St. Joseph University. They are making that possible in our community. This academy is designed to help parents who need support in sending children to college or maybe getting through some of the tough years. And you may not realize that you have resources in our community to do so. Last week, we welcomed Joanna and Jennifer with Mount St. Joseph University to tell us about this program.
We were approached from a community partner through SICE and their funders to join together to start this program because it blends our mission perfectly at the Mounts as well as within our own social work program when it comes to service to others and a commitment to lifelong learning.
Well, the Parent Academy's mission is to break the cycle of poverty by helping more low-income students access a college pathway. And so with this, we do this and achieve this by empowering parents to give them the information and strategies needed to assist their child academically and on their path to college and career readiness.
Program is so popular, they already have a waiting list. Finally, this half hour, healthy diversity, we call it, a study by the European Society of Cardiology found that people who live in neighborhoods that are not easily walkable have a 5% higher chance of cardiovascular disease. Now, this is compared to those who don't live in these walkable areas. It's recommended that people get 150 minutes of moderate physical activity every week. All right, up next, Mimosas for Memories is what it's called. We're going to share a little bit more about an event that raises money to fight Alzheimer's and memory problems. Stay with us in our next half hour on What's Happening in Health.
The headline medical stories that affect you and your family. This is What's Happening in Health, sponsored by Mayfield Braden Spine.
Morning, everybody, and welcome back to our second half hour here on What's Happening in Health. So grateful you are staying with us here on this Sunday morning. Got a great half hour for you. The Giving Voice Foundation's 10th annual Mimosas for Memories event is April the 26th at the Cincinnati Club. And here to tell us all about it, we want to welcome our good friend Krista Powers, the executive director for this foundation, and Tabitha Foster is here. She is a partner to this organization from the Christ Hospital Health and Aging Center. We can't wait to hear a little bit more. about that as well. And a recent article, part of the conversation at Miami University, it reminds us that we have lasting consequences from the COVID-19 pandemic. And Megan Gerhardt is here. She's a professor of management at Miami University. So glad to have you in-house today. She has a very interesting perspective on lingering loneliness in different generations, and she's here to share some thoughts with us. But first today, we do have a quick headline for you. A new study raising red flags about AI's role in healthcare. Researchers at Mount Sinai found artificial intelligence bots treating patients with the exact same symptoms gave very different treatment advice based on the person's demographics and socioeconomic background. Wealthier patients were steered toward diagnostic procedures in cases where poorer patients were told they didn't need more testing. You know, AI is trained using information from people, so experts say it is vulnerable to the same biases. And now to our top story this half hour in Your Healthy Future. New survey on women's health adds to other questions that we should perhaps be asking our women's health providers about, maybe as early as when we're teens.
For example, women's health specialists tell us many think the human papillomavirus or HPV vaccine is only recommended for young adults. But the CDC suggests that it is used as young as age 9, before teens become sexually active.
Well, that's actually the most important window for HPV vaccination and prevention of cervical, vaginal, oral, and other cancers related to HPV.
It's also suggested early conversations should start about relationships at that time, too.
Consent matters. Know your body, know what is allowed to be done to your body and what you will allow.
As the body changes, perhaps in parenthood, many other questions come up about gynecological problems.
We deal with fibroids, abnormal uterine bleeding, endometriosis, pelvic pain.
Those have both surgical and medical solutions.
We gear the treatment according to what your main symptom is. So it could be one or the other, either medical or surgical, or it might be a combination of both.
And then there's those early symptoms of perimenopause.
Hot flashes, night sweats, they're starting around 42, probably about 10 years prior to the actual menopause.
This new survey by the Ohio State Wexner Medical Center that provided this video found about half of us, 52%, think we can manage these with diet and exercise. And we may be right. But don't delay medical intervention, providers say, if that doesn't fix what you are feeling. Survey found 6 in 10 of us don't realize we can experience these symptoms as young as age 30. And 1 in 4 of us are worried about physical health symptoms with perimenopause and beyond. 1 in 5 worried about mental health changes.
Now, both of those may be true, and you can find out more about this in a special program we are having Saturday night, April the 19th. It airs at 7 p.m. here on Local 12. It's called Changing the Conversation, and we hope you will tune in to learn a little bit more about women's health. In legal medicine today, Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a longtime vaccine skeptic, as we know, has made a dramatic switch on the measles vaccine now that a second child in Texas has died from this virus. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. attended the 8-year-old's funeral service recently, and for the first time, Kennedy, in a tweet, expressed explicit support for the measles vaccine. He said the most effective way to prevent the spread of measles is the MMR vaccine, and it comes as he has faced widespread criticism for suggesting alternative treatments such as vitamin A or cod liver oil treatments. Doctors say these will not prevent measles.
The secretary is one of the leading proponents of the myth that these vaccines cause autism. And so for him to be acknowledging that one of the most important tools we have to curb this outbreak is vaccination is really important here.
Now, the 2 deaths are more than the U.S. has seen from this highly contagious disease in years. It is generally preventable through a 2-course vaccine. There are now more than 600 confirmed cases of measles across 22 states. Most of those cases are in Texas. And 1 dose of the MMR vaccine is 93% effective. 2 doses, 97%. All right, just ahead, yet another hidden health benefit from some of these common diabetes drugs. And mimosas for memories. Kristen, Tabitha joining us. So glad to have you here. We're going to learn how we can all support families living with Alzheimer's. It's next on What's Happening in Health.
This portion of What's Happening in Health is sponsored by Life Enriching Communities, NKADD, Hawksworth, and Aptiva Health.
In Healthy Caregiving today, drugs used for diabetes and weight loss may have other benefits, including curbing dementia. 2 studies published in the journal JAMA Neurology suggest drugs such as Ozempic and Wegovy can protect against dementia. One of those studies says the drugs cut the risk 45%. Both studies analyzed diabetes patients using these drugs in 2014. Now more research needs to be done to see what the effect may be in people without diabetes.
Well, I think what we're seeing is there's this underlying mechanism of damage to blood vessels, inflammation, which is what's driving many of the chronic diseases we see, whether that's heart disease, kidney disease, damage to the brain, which can lead to stroke or dementia. So it makes sense that these medications may potentially have this effect.
And meanwhile, a proposal to expand coverage for these drugs recently was not approved by government officials. It may be reconsidered at a later date, but Medicare will still cover drugs such as Ozempic and Wegovy for patients who do suffer from a serious health concern, such as heart disease or diabetes. All right, we want to turn now to our wonderful friends from the Giving Voice Foundation. You may remember Krista Powers. We've been following your journey surviving breast cancer. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. It's nice to be here and wearing a different hat as well.
Feel a little bit of that normalcy coming back?
Yes,
although
I do.
Normal's just a setting on the dryer now.
It is.
That, right?
Yes, yes. Thank you for the reminder.
Completely moved. Yeah. And you brought friends. Tell us who's with you.
This is Tabitha Foster. She is with the Christ Hospital Aging and Health Center Network.
Health and Aging Center.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
I said to you, I've been, part of your sort of team members for a long time. Love you guys. And I've not even heard of this. Tell me a little bit about that center.
It's an outpatient practice, and we specialize in dementia. So we have 2 geriatricians and 4 advanced practice providers, and patients and their families can get a diagnosis and then follow-up care. As far as caregiving goes, we have 2 social workers that can help after the diagnosis, help with resources, and that's one of the amazing reasons why we love Dr. Grosvik and Giving Voice, because of the programs and resources that they offer for our patients specifically. So
I bet families are so grateful to find you, because when you're in this journey, let's tell people what the Giving Voice Foundation is all about.
Sure. So Giving Voice, our mission is to inspire connection and intergenerational opportunities to improve the health of older adults, and we do it through storytelling and engagement and advocacy and education. So having a partner like the Christ Hospital is so important to help people find us, and then these sorts of conversations to really share that we're here. We provide no-cost services and engagement to people who need us, so they don't have to do the journey of Alzheimer's and dementia alone. So our services are for people who live with a form of dementia and their care partners.
Which is so important. It's often referred to as the long goodbye.
Yes.
And everyone has a different journey in that time. So we've had the privilege of following the Giving Voice Foundation almost from the beginning. One of your doctors had I believe it was a grandparent that had Alzheimer's disease. And so we want to show some photos. You have a wonderful event that you host each year called Mimosas for Memories. Tell me about it. What is it? How do you use the money raised from it? That kind of thing.
Sure. So on April 26th, the last Saturday of the month, we'll have Mimosas for Memories. This is our 10th annual event, and you were the first one sharing the story about this. We started from small beginnings, and this year we're at the Cincinnati Club, and this is a time to come together and really celebrate. This disease can be hard and heavy and long, and yet through Giving Voice, we really find ways to create joy and to create little bubbles of happiness and connection that mean everything through this journey. So that's what we do at Mimosas for Memories, and we raise money which fund the programming so that we can provide this as no cost for people, so it's accessible to everyone.
So does some of the funding they raise help you with some of your patient care?
Not directly, I guess, but we more so feed into, we have, like our patients will come there and then we'll refer for help because Christian has just formulated this perfect program that is exactly what our patients and their caregivers are looking for. which is kind of like respite. You know, they need help. They need, like you said, they come in and we ask ourselves, how were they like that this whole time without help, you know? And they are grateful, and it's very amazing to be able to offer that to people, because it seems like they really don't know that it's out there, that this resource is out there. So the fact that it's free and it's available, and it's just something we can give our caregivers, it doesn't, you know, take a lot of time on their part to reach out. So it's just very, very helpful.
So it's interesting because you can sort of manage the clinical things that are needed, but without that social support, which is really what Giving Voice is about.
It is, yes. So 2 of our primary programs, Purposeful Planning Program is an opportunity for a person to sit down with a licensed social worker and talk about their loved one and their disease process and resources and education for them. And then one of our other cornerstone programs is Creative Connections, and it's a weekly program, and that's really where we stand apart, and we offer something that is consistent for a person living with a form of dementia. They have music and movement, and their care partner has a support group simultaneously for 90 minutes once a week. And it's this beautiful coming together of support, and as Tabitha said, respite for the care partner as well. And people are just welcome to show up as they are. There's no expectations, there's no hyperfixation on the disease process. It's just being a human together and allowing music and movement to create some of that joy.
Well, I love that. We have a graphic of the date and how to find you and where it is and all the rest of that, so people can sign up and buy tickets. But the final thing I think is, are you not amazed at how many people are touched by this illness? Like, if you don't have it in your family, you know someone living
I'm
with
blown
it.
away, yeah. When I've been at the Health and Aging Center for 10 years, and I had like no personal experience, so I quickly became a huge advocate, just seeing how in the community there's such an underwhelming amount of information and resources, and then seeing the amount, like, people that need help that call and they really have nothing else. And so now it affects me very personally, just because I work with doctors and, you know, the staff and everybody, but I was truly blown away that it's everywhere. We could be filled for I don't know how long, and
and you'd never have enough resources.
Yeah.
So thank you for giving those people a voice, which is really what your organization's about. All right, we're going to put a link to the tickets that you can get for this event. Again, it's coming up on the 26th. It's like a brunch type thing.
It is.
And the mimosa thing is kind of cool.
Mimosasformemories.com. Yes, join us.
Thank you so much for just sharing your time with us today. Mostly thank you for the population you serve. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
All right, just ahead, good bacteria, we call it, yogurt and colon cancer. We're going to share what a new study says we need to know. And we're going to meet Megan. She is a passionate professor at Miami University. So glad to have you back in house. She's going to share some information with us about isolation, loneliness, and the next generation. Stay with us on What's Happening in Health.
This portion of What's Happening in Health is sponsored by Miami University, the Vein Center of Cincinnati, and Lindner Center of Hope.
I want to chat with you in Gut Instinct today. New study shows a beneficial bacteria may play a role in reducing colon cancer risk. It is often found in yogurt. It's a gut-friendly bacteria, we call it. Researchers from Brigham and Women's took a closer look at colon tumors in people who have regularly eaten yogurt for many years. And they found far fewer colon cancer cases in those who had more of this good gut bacteria. It does lead researchers to ask if we should be getting more of it in our diet to continue to reduce risk. All right, on now to a wonderful segment here we call Healthy Innovations, and it highlights people who do some unique things or raise awareness of some unique things. And one of the people that we've had a chance to get to know a little bit is Megan Gerhardt. Tell us who you are and what you do at Miami.
I am a professor of leadership at Miami University in the Farmer School. I am also a generational strategist, consultant, and author. I wrote a book called Gentelligence, all about making generational differences an opportunity rather than a frustration at work.
So how did that come about?
Well, when I started at Miami, I was pretty young. I was about 26, and that meant I had colleagues who were up to maybe 40 years older than me at that time, and I was teaching students who were maybe only 5 years younger, which could be awkward, but I actually ended up finding a great opportunity in it. I really was fascinated in how my students' views on work and career were shifting, even in that small period of time from when I had been in their shoes. And realized that trying to get curious and understand where those perspectives came from, and also the perspective of my older colleagues, was such an opportunity for learning. And so I've done a lot of work and research about how we can be leveraging that as a wonderful source of innovation, change, productivity, help engage people across their careers and lifespan at work. So just become a really big passion for me personally and professionally.
So it's so interesting because I think of you as like a bridging the gap person. And so I've read some of your work, and most recently at Miami, you wrote an article for something called The Conversation about loneliness and isolation. And I found that when you were looking at different generations, that was fascinating. So tell me a little bit about that. We have just some video of Miami if you're not familiar with the campus there.
Sure. So, post-COVID, of course, we all know that there was a great deal of isolation. And coming out of that, with the switch to remote work, hybrid work, just seeing that people are not as connected as they once were, whatever that might mean to people. And so thinking about where might we find potential to improve this phenomenon or this issue that we have, and intergenerational interactions, particularly in the workplace, are one of those untapped resources. So we don't tend to be very well connected or know people with significant age gaps from us in the workplace. We have sort of an age polarization. We move through companies with people around our age as we get jobs together, we get promoted together, and that means it really takes some proactive effort to reach out to people either significantly older or younger, to do meaningful work, to get to know them personally. And when that happens, we see all of these amazing benefits that maybe we don't take advantage of as we should. So friendships. So I have really wonderful friends who are 68 and 28, and I'm 48. So those are people at different life stages than you. So there's advice, there's mentorship, both from the younger to older and older to younger. There's perspective. There's all kinds of different knowledge and expertise. So I help companies set up things like mutual mentoring programs where people get an opportunity to talk about even issues happening around them and get different perspectives. And so being able to really find different kinds of connections that can help us really combat isolation, find new ways to connect and reach out to people that maybe we hadn't previously thought of as a resource is something that I think is really an amazing opportunity.
So I thought it was interesting that we have a graphic that you said that the younger generation, I'm not sure where you've put that category, but they were a lot less engaged at work. Like it used to be work was your whole life.
Correct.
There's a certain generation, that's what you did. Mm-hmm. And now they're like, nah, not my thing. But then that's led to other loneliness and isolation feelings.
Yes, so there's some research that came out from Gallup recently about our engagement levels at work are at a 10-year low, and that was specifically hitting people in Generation Z the hardest. So that would be our young people. Technically it's 13 to 28, but they were specifically looking at adult Gen Zs in the workplace. And a lot of that is, these are people who maybe started their careers during the pandemic or shortly thereafter. They potentially have never known a work life where they are going into an office every day, meeting coworkers for coffee, grabbing lunch, really getting to know people on a personal basis. A lot of those interactions are happening across a screen, and we know there's benefits to that. There's all kinds of, we all want flexibility. But when you're in that stage of life, you are trying to form personal networks, professional networks. You're trying to learn your job, make a good impression on your boss. Those things are really hard to do remotely, and we're finding that maybe we didn't think about that in the beginning of the pandemic and the post-pandemic work era. And now we're starting to realize that that's leading to lower levels of engagement, commitment, and just things that maybe we need to pay a little closer attention to. I think there's a big myth that our younger generations don't want to be in an office, and I work with amazing Gen Zs every day up at Miami, and that is not what we're seeing. They want flexibility, but they want to be in an office where they can learn from people, make those connections. And so I think that's a really important avenue for us to pursue.
That is a very striking point that you just made, because flexibility, like I got to be here some, and that can be, very negotiable. But that's so interesting. Well, you wrote this article. We will make sure we put a link to it at what'shappeninginhealth.com and continue to follow this conversation because it's fascinating. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for the work you do. All right, just ahead, what to reduce if your blood pressure is high when it comes to your diet. There is a new report on diet and hypertension we're going to tell you about on What's Happening in Health. Stay with us.
This portion of What's Happening in Health is sponsored by Network for Hope, William E. Hesh Law, and Serene Sweets.
In Your So Vain today, the 2025 Dietary Guidelines for Good Health remind us that too much salt in the diet can add to high blood pressure numbers. In most cases, that means ideally you want your blood pressure no higher than about 120/70. This can reduce the odds of heart attack and stroke. The top high salt foods that they recommend we reduce include probably lots of your favorites: processed meats, that's like ham and salami, that kind of thing, canned soups, packaged snacks, those can be anything from chips to crackers, condiments, even like ketchup and pickles, as well as burgers, just simply because we often season them to eat them. All right, on now to Hope You Know, which is what we hope you know each week about your mental health. And there is new research today on a healthy mind. Researchers say letting your mind wander can be a good thing. A study by the Society for Neuroscience found when people perform simple tasks, letting the mind wander didn't hurt performance. In some cases, they actually perform better. But researchers say more complex tasks do require a more focused mind. All right, just ahead, a new quick test for measles to tell you about. We'll share it in Your Healthy Rights. And Chris is coming back, but this time she's with Rachel. They are here to talk about the power to pursue. We'll explain in our next half hour on What's Happening in Health.
The headline medical stories that affect you and your family. This is What's Happening in Health, sponsored by TriHealth.
Morning, everybody, and thanks for sticking around for our third half hour here on What's Happening in Health. Got a great rest of the show for you. First up, Krista Powers is back, and this time she's with Rachel, talking about a conference you see here. It's called The Power to Pursue, and it is an event which supports women in health and beyond. They're going to share more about it and how we can all attend coming up on What's Happening in Health. And we do have the best foods for a healthy brain. What to eat to feed your head. Don't we all need that today? But first, quick headline for you. It's not over. The team at TriHealth saying people are still coming into the hospital with complications from COVID-19. Fewer of them do need intensive care unit care, but there is now talk about a newer vaccine to prevent what commonly is an outbreak in the warmer months.
I think COVID is still, a bit of a mystery and how it changes over time. And again, whether we're going to have outbreaks later in the summer or fall.
That's Dr. Stephen Blatt, of course, talking to us about COVID-19, and we'll have more coming up. Also in this half hour, we want to talk to you about Dr. Will Smallwood. When he was initially diagnosed with multiple myeloma, which is a cancer of the blood, he thought he was headed for a short survival.
At the time, this busy vice president of advancement at Ohio's Cedarville University told me his only real symptom was severe back pain. Scans showed he had a series of lesions on his spine.
On the day of diagnosis, my kidneys were already failing. 70% of the cells in my body were cancerous. My doctor indicated that if we did absolutely nothing, I'd have about 6 months to live.
So Will took what he says his doctors called a lethal dose of chemotherapy. It dropped his cancerous cells down to about 15%, and it made him a candidate for a stem cell transplant, which removes his own damaged cells in his body and replaces them with healthy ones. Within months,
the doctors declared my cancer in what they call durable remission.
That remission is sustained right now with maintenance medications. But a year and a half later, Will says his mission now?
Investing my life in students.
That investment means letting others know on this campus and in his community that if you're a person of faith, the size of the obstacle doesn't have to change how you believe.
When you hear the words, you have 6 months to live, anxiety, fear, doubt, all those things come rushing in. But very quickly, I learned that what really had changed is I got cancer. And whether or not that I had 6 months or 6 years or 60 years, I know who holds and controls my life.
Boy, quite a journey. Will is now back at work and raising funds for the Capital Campaign at Cedarville University. They hope to expand. He says when you don't know what to do to help someone with a challenging health journey, don't underestimate the power of praying for them. We want to turn now to listen to this. It sounds kind of odd, but if your hearing is off, might be time to get a hearing test and an eye exam. Now, the reason that this may be important is that often we rely on lip reading to hear. But did you notice that when people cover their mouths or wear masks that we don't hear them as well? So you need to see well and hear well for your best safety and health. The team from Prevent Blindness Ohio says a lot of screen time these days is messing with our vision. This leads to what's called computer vision syndrome. Here's what Andrea Kennedy told us they suggest.
Every 20 minutes that you're focusing on a screen, look 20 feet away for at least 20 seconds. That gives your eyes an opportunity to refocus, focus farther out, take a little break. So every 20 minutes, look 20 feet away for at least 20 seconds.
Here's a few other suggestions they recommend to reduce this computer vision syndrome. Place your screen 20 feet away, or 20 inches away, from your eyes and a little bit below eye level. Use a document holder if you can, so you have that close to you and you don't have to swing your head back and forth or constantly change your eye focus. They suggest you change your lighting if you can, so you don't have as much glare and harsh reflection. Glare filters over your digital screens can also help this. And choose anti-reflective lenses if you can. Glasses are needed sometimes to reduce glare and increase contrast, and they also block that blue light from digital devices. Finally, topping this half hour, we call it Aging Gracefully. We have new information on the shingles vaccine. It cuts dementia risk by 20%, according to a new study from Stanford. It comes from a larger natural experiment which shows that the herpes zoster vaccine reduces dementia diagnosis 20% over 7 years. The findings suggest both viral suppression and immune training may play roles in brain health. The vaccine is recommended for those ages 50 and older, keeps the chickenpox virus from coming back. All right, up next, how to know if you've been exposed to measles. We'll tell you more in Your Healthy Rights. And Krista Powers still here with Rachel. So glad to have you here to talk about the power to pursue. Stay with us on what's happening in health.
This portion is sponsored by Good Samaritan College of Nursing and Health Science and the Mental Health Recovery Board of Warren and Clinton Counties.
In Your Healthy Rights today, you have the right to know that there is a new next morning test available for results if you think you've been exposed to the measles. A company called HealthTrackRx just launched this new quick delivery system for this test. They partner with urgent care centers and emergency rooms all over the country. I spoke with their chief scientific officer, Jay Reddy, who told me this about what they do.
The most important thing with measles is containment. Early identification after exposure. And then after a positive, you can contain that patient to make sure that it doesn't get spread. Regional outbreaks are kind of common with measles. What you don't want is something that gets more national.
Now, as we mentioned at the top of our program, there are more than 600 cases of measles now nationwide. If you do think you've been exposed, ask your doctor where you can go to get those rapid overnight test results. All right, on now to our wonderful team. Krista's sticking around, but you brought friends, and they're here to talk the power to pursue. So tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, thanks, Liz. Rachel DeRocher, serial entrepreneur here in the region, but founder of Power to Pursue. Power to Pursue is a women's empowerment movement whose mission it is to create a safe space for women to be seen, heard, and loved. And we do all kinds of programming through the region, and it's really like the coolest thing.
So I think it's interesting as I'm looking, you do a lot sort of throughout the region, but you have a summit each year.
Yeah, our big event's coming up May 16th at Music Hall, where we'll have 850 people gathered. for a day of impact, a day of connection. It's really incredible. Our programming is just the coolest. Katie Couric's our keynote this year. Krista is one of our speakers this year. I think the job of Power to Pursue, I come back to this line of, we're really just normalizing normal things. It's really important for me that we're talking about a lot of just normal things that women go through, whether that's menopause or grief or how to ask for a raise or a promotion. We cultivate a lot as wise women, and so this day is about, I think, helping refill cups, finding people who think and believe like you. It's a very diverse day. We have active workshops. We have quiet, more panel style workshops, introverts, extroverts. I kind of try to think about all of it when I'm building it out.
We love that. You have that brain that does that. We have some photos you sent us, and it really is a diverse population. So, Krista, did you get involved with this? Because I know you have a grief book in the works.
I do have a grief book in the works. That is largely why I think Rachel invited me to be on the panel that is Grief as a Teacher, though also Rachel and I are connected because of our pathways through the journey of Alzheimer's disease, and that being a long goodbye and being an experience of grief for the person diagnosed as well as all of the circle around them and caregivers. So we have that connection. We certainly have the connection of just loving the tri-state and showing up as humans and as women for one another, and trying to just meander our journeys together.
Yeah.
So it looks like it's a beautiful event. I mean, in physical beauty, music hall and whatnot can do that. So I'm curious, you mentioned grief and you mentioned asking for a raise. Give me some of those subjects that you said, you want to normalize, because I was thinking, is it normal to ask for a raise? That's what went through my head when you said that, because they say that quite often there is a difference in what each gender makes, because men will go ask for a raise and women will be like, oh no, I don't want to do that.
Right? I love that stat that's men will just apply for the job, and we're like, well, we don't have so what? Apply for the job, women, permission, right? So we have, Liz, the day is kind of structured. We have a keynote and we have the main stage power panel, but kind of programming throughout then is that we have breakout sessions. So there's 5 in the morning and there's 5 in the afternoon. We'll have close to 50 women speakers throughout the day on all of our stages. I think we have 5 stages total on May 16th. So grief is one of the topics. I think grief is such a universal thing that every human experiences. I personally love talking about grief. I know that's so weird. As Krista had mentioned, we have this underlying, my mom died at the age of 63 from early onset Alzheimer's. We actually have done some work with Giving Voice Foundation. We actually have a grief performance that a few of us in town have put together. So it's really important.
A grief performance? Is it like a drama?
It just tells this story of loss and the light returning, which is, I think, this process of grief. And grief is one of those topics that's so sticky, it's so vulnerable, it's so messy that we don't have, good enough tools. So it's important for me that we have that as part of our day and our programming. Other topics that we are doing, we have a Women in AI workshop where we have 10 AI experts coming to teach women how to use it, how to it be safe, just different tips and tricks. We have, we build so much programming. So we have a panel called Ascending Women and a panel called Game Changers, because those are other programmings that we're building here in the city. We're doing this one about embodiment, about what would it look like. So we have a panel of embodiment experts, yoga teachers, meditation practice, a coach, and they're really talking about, here's the best way for you to get back in your body. I always go back to this, if women, I think women can do anything. You want to change the world, raise your babies. It doesn't matter. For me, I want us all to be happy. But I think part of that is getting back into your body, feeling grounded. And I say that because I think a lot of times we're running around with chickens with our heads cut off, right?
So true. That
and
is so true.
If we take a big deep breath and just count to 5 and let ourselves kind of come back together to be like, oh wait, I can do this. And so to be able to give those tools is really important to like what we're building. The grief, what else is?
All right, pause for just a moment there because we put it up. We want to make sure if you're just watching and need to head out of the house right now, it's coming up on May 16th and you can still get tickets. Again, your keynote is Katie Couric. And we'll put a link to register if you'd like to find that out at what'shappeninginhealth.com. We're going to have you stick around. So think about what some of those are because it's fascinating to listen to you. I'm like, whoa, I would have never thought of that stuff. You know, I'm like, wow, you had it all. And I'm impressed. I love that. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for the difference you make in women's lives. It's really cool. All right, we'll be back with them in just a moment, but just ahead, we're going to tell you about a popular trend in facials to keep your skin looking younger. Stay with us here on What's Happening in Health.
This portion of What's Happening in Health is sponsored by Northern Kentucky Audiology, the Center for Closing the Health Gap, and Journey Light.
In Look Good, Feel Better today, there's a newer trend in facials you may want to know about. We have some video from a live Zoom that we did with the Advanced Cosmetic Surgery and Laser Center. They have a facial that infuses vitamins C and E into the skin with oxygen. Hope Mers and Donna Abdernor are nurse practitioners. They are talking here and demoing for us, and I asked about what's called a cryofacial as well. It uses liquid nitrogen to cool the skin. It also tightens and firms the skin and reduces inflammation. It can help collagen circulate, and they say that you can get these benefits from maybe doing this a little bit at a time too, and here's how.
I'll let you kind of see me pour this in here, and you can see that vapor coming out a little bit. So that is what we use to treat something like a brown spot, and I'll show you that on Martha. But when you hear about a cryofacial, it's using a continuous stream of the vapor to do a full face treatment.
Now, these start at about $50 to remove some of those brown spots, but for more information, you can call 513-351-3223 just to ask about facials. All right, Krista and Rachel are back joining us here. And we were talking a little bit about some subjects, but you said you have been in the process of this book thing for a while. Tell me about your book.
Yeah, it goes back into grief.
Can I see it? What's the title?
Yeah, so it's called The Morning Light. It's reflections of love and loss, and it's really telling the story of my mom's passing, of what walking through, you know, not just losing her to Alzheimer's, but also losing her at all, grief of loss, her being so young, you know, and just these moments. And once I really gave myself permission, as Krista, you know, like you think you have an idea, but then you've got to really drop in for the idea to come out. And this book ends up telling just the story of all of these experiences that I've had my whole life where grief has come to my door and gratitude's just been right there alongside of it. You know, the way that I kind of say is that grief expanded me and gratitude caught me. Gratitude's everything for me. It's what I believe in. It's, you know, really if I come and teach or talk or anything, I always talk and teach gratitude. And so there's a 90-day gratitude journal out as well, the Shift to Light. And it's just, it's really important. There's practices even in through the book where I'm prompting you to have that moment of reflection with gratitude.
It's interesting that you would say, you know, track your gratitude because we know there are health benefits from that. And the thing that Krista and I have talked about, and you have that sideways, my friend,
I
do. Is that you have to learn how to grieve. So when you teach workshops at this, do you talk a little bit about that?
I do. So that's what I'm working on right now. I really believe that grief is transitioning from something that we know into something that is. So whether it's a death of a loved one or a divorce or a change in job, but it can also be like graduating or retiring. So it's letting go of something and making room for something new and unfamiliar. And so I really believe through the work that I'm doing now in my own writing that people are hungry for language and a process to step through our grief. We're hungry and ready for this conversation.
I think so much of what we've been given grief related has had negative connotation. And I think that that's not necessarily been our experience. You know, it's hard, it's tricky, it's messy, it's vulnerable. It is all of those things, but it's also brought so much hope for me. It's also brought so much purpose for me. It's also brought...
What's the purpose?
Living, not letting one day pass me by, you know, not going after the thing because I don't believe I'm worth it or I don't have the degree that tells me I know it all.
The power to pursue.
Power to pursue is a big piece of it. I write in the book, even when I started Power to Pursue, it was giving me something I didn't even have access really to in my own home. When I go back to that, like being seen, heard, and loved, like that wasn't necessarily what was happening for me. And so it wasn't until like 2 or 3 years after growing Power to Pursue where I was like, oh, it's for me all along. And so I think it goes back to like why I love it so much. It's that every woman I've ever met could have more love, or could be seen more, or could be heard better. That's not a bad thing, you know, like it's just a human thing. So it's just, Liz, I'm having the time of my life building this thing and bringing women together, and I think sharing just experiences of life, the death of my mom, the divorce, numerous
And
Tuesday, it just doesn't matter anymore.
So you mentioned the body, you mentioned the grief, you mentioned Katie Couric, which is kind of the overview. Couple other things that might just...
So excited. One of my favorite panels that we're doing this year is called Hot and Unbothered, and it's all women 55 and up.
It sounds like a menopause thing.
Yeah, because they just have so much still, there's, and it's, I want them at my table. They have so much wisdom to give back.
I had a physician say to me that that's not often a proud time in our life. Like, we don't want to share anything about that time.
And we don't know what to do with it yet, right?
That's it.
But we're stepping into knowing and claiming.
I think this is normalizing the fact that, I remember thinking back when my mom was going through that, and it was not spoken of, And now it's like, oh, you too. Oh, you too. Great. It's okay. And so bringing it to main stage is important. And we'll talk about menopause, but we'll also just talk about what it's like to still be an entrepreneur. Some of these ladies are running businesses. There's an artist on this panel, financial planner. And so also, what does that look like? What has their build been? What has their experience been?
So speaking of that, I want to just finish up. You have a kitchen, you said. I met Rachel when she was a food person. And so whenever I see you, I think of that joy with food.
Yeah. So my umbrella company is the Gratitude Collective, and under that it houses Grateful Grams, which has been closed now. We closed that at the end of 23. But the Incubator Kitchen Collective, which is our nonprofit, it's a shared use commercial kitchen space in Northern Kentucky. We've supported over 250 food startups here regionally. There's a project, obviously Power to Pursue. There's a Rachel bucket, and that's where I do all my speaking and my book work. I'm part of the America's River Roots team, which is a big event happening here in the city. I work with Procter & Gamble on a project called Queen City Game Changers. And then the last little bucket is Good and Local. And we actually, I started in 2023, we're building out the region's only wholesale food show. And so we back in food education and impact. And I look through a through line, obviously, is gratitude and community, but a lot of this work is about creating access. It's creating access for women. It's creating access for food entrepreneurs. I think it's simplifying really complicated systems that really aren't complicated, and just saying, hey, my door's open, come and hang out with us, whether you're making cookies or you want a good cry. We got it all here at the Gratitude Collective. It's kind of fun. Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad to reconnect with you. Krista, thanks for supporting this great effort and just being part of this. Once again, the summit event is on the 16th of May, and we'll put a link to that so you can register at whatshappeninginhealth.com. Thanks for just sharing some thoughts on this.
Oh my gosh, what a treat to be here with you today and see you again. And love on this one. She's so just good. The best.
She's very lovable in so many ways. All right. Just ahead, before we go, we want to share a new tool that might help with diagnosis of autism. Stay with us on What's Happening in Health.
This portion of What's Happening in Health is sponsored by Mount St. Joseph University, Elder Law Lawyers, and Advanced Cosmetic Surgery and Laser Center.
In healthy conditions today, April is Autism Awareness Month, and according to the CDC, 1 in 36 children in the U.S. do have this illness. Many have families that wait months to see their child be diagnosed or get to a specialist. Fortunately, there is a new tool called Autism Eyes. It was developed by the Cleveland Clinic. It's designed to relieve some stress for parents.
On average, parents suspect something wrong with their child's development at about a year of age. However, the diagnosis is made about 2 to 3 years later on average. So there is a huge lag, and the lag is because of the long waiting list for autism diagnostic clinics.
So this device works by measuring a child's gaze and eye movement while they watch different videos and pictures, and then based on the child's reaction is how they're diagnosed. Researchers say this tool requires very little training. It can be used in almost any environment. It is not yet ready to, however, to be used in a clinical environment. They are still developing it. Well, we are so grateful today that you are sharing your Sunday with us. We'll be back same time next week. We hope that you will be too. Until then, everybody, stay well and stay tuned.